The chamber was vast, built to remind visitors of their insignificance. 12 towering seats arranged in a circle, each occupied by representatives of the elder species who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. In the center stood 3 humans, small by comparison, dressed in simple dark uniforms that bore no decoration except a single blue emblem over their hearts. Ambassador Tai Min stood perfectly still as the council speaker. A tall avian creature named Vexthar spread his wings wide. The gesture was meant to intimidate. Behind Tai Min, military liaison Hana kept her hands clasped behind her back, her face showing nothing. Chief negotiator Jiwoo held a data pad, but hadn't looked at it once during the entire proceeding. Vexthar's voice echoed through the chamber, amplified by technology the council had possessed for millennia. The council has reached its decision regarding the human question. Your species has expanded too quickly. You consume too many resources. You adapt technologies at rates that destabilize established markets. You colonize worlds at a pace that threatens territorial agreements centuries old. Taman said nothing. He simply watched the speaker with dark, calm eyes. Therefore, Vexthar continued, his beak clicking with satisfaction, the council decrees the following terms. Humanity will surrender all colonies beyond your home system of Sol. All research and development will be submitted to council oversight before implementation. Your economy will accept regulatory sanctions to prevent market disruption. Your military forces will be reduced to 1/10 of their current capacity. Around the circle, other council members nodded their agreement. The reptilian War Master Cormac showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. The aquatic trade regent Lythis swayed in her containment sphere, already calculating how to claim human assets. You have 30 standard days to begin compliance, Vexthar said. Failure to meet these terms will result in forcible containment and the stripping of all rights within council space. Do you understand? For a long moment, Taman was silent. The chamber waited. Some council members leaned forward, expecting outrage or desperate pleading. Others looked bored, as if this was already decided and the human response didn't matter. Finally, Taman spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried clearly through the enormous space. Is this negotiable? Vexthar's head tilted, his large eyes glittering. It is not. The council has spoken with one voice. These terms are final. Taman nodded once. He turned to Hana, who touched her wrist device. A soft chime indicated that the council's terms had been transmitted through the quantum network to Earth and every human colony simultaneously. The message would arrive instantly, no matter the distance. Humanity will provide our response within the allotted time frame, Taman said. His tone was neither angry nor defeated. It was simply factual, like a man reading coordinates or reporting the weather. We have nothing further to discuss. He turned and walked toward the chamber's exit. Hana and Jiwoo followed without a word. Their footsteps echoed on the polished floor, each step measured and even. That is all? Vexthar called after them. No protest? No demands for reconsideration? Taman paused at the doorway but didn't turn around. You said the terms were not negotiable. What would be the purpose of protest? Perhaps an apology for your species' disruption, suggested Lythis, her voice bubbling through her sphere's translator. A recognition of the wisdom of your betters. Now Taman did turn, but only his head looking back over his shoulder. His expression remained neutral, but something in his eyes made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. Humanity acknowledges the council's decision, he said. We will respond appropriately. Then the 3 humans left the chamber. The massive doors sealed behind them with a deep, resonant boom. For a moment, the council sat in silence. Then Vexthar ruffled his feathers and made a satisfied chirping sound, simpler than expected. They understand the natural order after all. They seemed very calm, Cormac rumbled. The War Master's claws tapped against his armrest. Perhaps too calm. They are in shock, Lythis said dismissively. Their pride is wounded. They will rage and deny for a few days, then they will comply. They have no choice. Other council members murmured their agreement. The youngest species, the crystalline Thuran representative, asked quietly, should we not have offered some compromise? The humans have been valuable trade partners. Vexithar's head swiveled toward the young representative. And that is precisely the problem. They became too valuable too quickly. They made themselves necessary to too many species. This creates dependency, which creates vulnerability. Better to prune this branch before it grows strong enough to threaten the tree. But their military capabilities, the Tharan began, are insignificant compared to the combined might of the Council, Vexthar interrupted. They have a few hundred warships. We have tens of thousands. They have colonies on 40 worlds. We control 4,000 systems. The mathematics are simple. Cormac stopped tapping his claws. It is not their current strength that concerns me. It is their rate of growth. 20 years ago, they had wooden boats on a single ocean. Today, they have quantum drives and settlements in 36 systems. What will they have in another 20 years if we do not contain them now? Which is why we act today, Vexthar said firmly. The decision is made. The terms are delivered. Within a month, humanity will be back where they belong, confined to their single system, no longer able to disrupt the established order. The session was adjourned. Council members filed out to their respective embassies and vessels. Many were already discussing how to divide human territories and assets. It would be a significant windfall, and everyone wanted their share. On his flagship orbiting Axis Prime, Cormac stood before a tactical display showing human space. His second-in-command, a younger member of his species, approached cautiously. The human's ambassador was very composed. The younger officer observed. "No threats, no bargaining, no emotional display." "Yes," Cormac said slowly. He acted like a soldier receiving orders, not like a diplomat facing his civilization's end. "You think they will fight?" Cormac's tail swished back and forth, a sign of deep thought among his people. "I think they will do something. I do not yet know what. Increase surveillance on all human territories. I want to know the moment anything unusual occurs." "As you command, War Master." But Cormac continued staring at the display, at the cluster of stars marked in human blue. They seemed so small on the map, so insignificant. Yet something in Ambassador Tayman's eyes had been neither small nor insignificant. It had been the look of someone who had just made a very important decision. Cormac had seen that look before, in the eyes of enemies who were about to do something desperate or brilliant. He had learned long ago not to dismiss that look, regardless of how weak the enemy appeared, but the Council had spoken. The terms were set, and in 30 days they would have their answer. The War Master just hoped they were prepared for whatever that answer might be. The message from Earth arrived at Haven 7 within seconds of the Council's ultimatum. Colonial Administrator Dong Hyun read it 3 times, then looked out the window of his office at the thriving settlement below. 50,000 humans called this world home. They had built cities, farms, schools, and parks. Children played in streets that hadn't existed 5 years ago. Now it all had to go. He pressed the emergency broadcast button. Every screen, every device, every communication panel on Haven 7 activated simultaneously. His face appeared on all of them. "This is Administrator Dong Hyun. All residents of Haven 7, please remain calm. I have received direct orders from Earth. We are evacuating this colony. This is not a drill. We have 25 days to complete the evacuation. Everyone will be brought home safely. Please follow the instructions you are about to receive." He expected panic. He expected questions and protests. Instead, the response was immediate and orderly. Within hours, the first transport ships began arriving. Within days, entire neighborhoods were empty. Dong Hyun walked through the city's main plaza on day 7. It was already deserted. The buildings stood intact, but they felt hollow, like shells left behind by something that had moved on. His chief engineer, Minji, approached with a data pad. "All manufacturing equipment has been disassembled and loaded," she reported. "The agricultural processors are being stripped now. The power cores will be the last things to go." "What about the orbital station?" Minji smiled slightly. "That's the interesting part. We're not leaving it." Dong Hyun raised an eyebrow. "The Council will just take it. Let them try." Minji pulled up a schematic on her pad. "We've been installing new systems. When we leave, this station will be inoperable to anyone without human-specific neural interfaces. The Council's engineers won't be able to make it work. They'll barely be able to open the doors. Won't they just reverse engineer it? They can try. It will take them decades if they ever manage it at all." Minji's smile widened. "We've been holding back, Administrator. Following Council regulations, using their approved technologies, staying within their guidelines. Now we don't have to." A Vexian reporter managed to get through the security cordon on day 15. She was broadcasting to Council space. showing the empty human colony to billions of viewers. She found Dong-hyun supervising the final dismantling of the central power grid. "Administrator, why is humanity complying so readily with the Council's demands?" she asked, her translator making her chirping voice sound curious. "We expected resistance." Dong-hyun looked at her, his expression neutral. "We're not coming back." Something in his tone made her feathers ruffle. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said. We're leaving. We won't return. Haven 7 will no longer be a human colony." He gestured to the empty city around them. "Does this look like compliance to you? Or does it look like something else?" The reporter didn't understand. Neither did most of the galaxy watching her broadcast. They saw humans packing up, leaving quietly, doing exactly what the Council had demanded. They called it a victory for established order. Only a few noticed the details that didn't quite make sense. On the frontier station designated Hope's Gate, Governor Bora oversaw the closure of the largest human trade hub in Council space. Merchants from 60 different species had operated here, exchanging goods from across the galaxy. Now the station was emptying. A trader from the Theron Collective, one of the younger species who had always been friendly with humans, approached Bora desperately. "Please, Governor, where will we trade now? Your people were fair. You charged reasonable fees. You maintained the station better than anyone else could." Bora felt genuine sadness. She had liked the Tharan. They were honest and hard-working. "I'm sorry. We have no choice. But the Council has made their decision. We are making ours." She touched the trader's crystalline shoulder gently. "I hope we meet again someday, friend." Under better circumstances, the last ships left Hope's Gate on day 22. The station's lights went dark section by section. The Tharan trader watched from his own ship, feeling something he couldn't quite name. It wasn't just sadness. It was foreboding. In orbit around the Council capital world, Trade Regent Lyths received reports with growing satisfaction. "The humans are leaving everything behind," she told her staff. "Their stations, their facilities, their carefully cultivated colonies. We will claim it all." Her chief analyst, however, looked troubled. "Regent, there's something unusual in the data. The human evacuation fleet isn't making as many trips as it should." "Explain." "Haven 7 had 50,000 residents. Based on the cargo capacity of human transport ships, they should have needed at least 200 trips to evacuate everyone and their essential equipment. But our surveillance shows they made fewer than 50 trips." Lythis swayed in her sphere, considering. "Perhaps they left people behind." "No, Regent. We've scanned the colony. It's completely empty. Not a single human remains. Then they left their equipment. That's the problem. They didn't. When our survey teams entered the facilities, they found everything stripped. Even things that should have been bolted down permanently. It's like they somehow compressed months of work into days." Lythis dismissed the concern with a wave of her tentacle. They were motivated by fear. Fear makes species capable of impressive efficiency, but the analyst wasn't convinced. Neither was War Master Cormac, who had been monitoring human military movements. Admiral Yuna commanded the human defense fleet, and she was pulling back every ship, every patrol, every listening post. Not a single human warship remained in Council space by day 18, but the math didn't work. Cormac had counted 300 human warships spread across their territories. When they withdrew, he counted the same 300 returning to Sol system. But reports from his scouts insisted there had been more ships than that. Far more. Where did the rest go? He demanded of his intelligence officers. They had no answer. The humans weren't hiding their movements. They were just leaving, orderly and efficient, taking everything with them. But the numbers didn't add up, and it bothered Cormac more than any threat or aggressive posture could have. On day 25, the last human colony transmitted its final status report. Empty, evacuated, abandoned. Across Council space, 40 human settlements went dark one by one. Their lights turned off. Their transmitters went silent. Their defenses powered down. It was like watching stars wink out. The Council members who had been assigned to oversee the human withdrawal reported success. Humanity had complied with every demand. They had left peacefully, taking their people home, causing no trouble. It was, they agreed, a model of how younger species should behave when corrected by their betters. Only a handful of individuals felt uneasy. War Master Cormac, a few independent traders who had worked with humans, Some scientists who had studied human psychology, they all sensed something wrong with the picture, even if they couldn't articulate what it was. The humans weren't fleeing. They weren't even retreating. They were withdrawing. There was a difference, though few in the council understood it. Fleeing suggested panic. Retreating suggested defeat. But withdrawing suggested a choice, a deliberate decision to disengage. And the efficiency with which humanity had withdrawn, the completeness of it, the way they had stripped everything down to the bare walls and taken it all away, that suggested planning. That suggested they had been prepared for this. On Earth, in the headquarters of the Human Defense Initiative, Admiral Una stood before a holographic display of council space. Every human presence was now gone from that map. The Sol system stood alone, a small cluster of blue lights surrounded by the vast expanse of alien territory. Hana entered the command center and stood beside Una. They had worked together for years, and few words were needed between them. "It's done," Una said quietly. "Every human is home. Every asset is secured. Every ship is accounted for." "The council thinks they've won," Hana replied. "Let them think it. We have work to do." Una touched a control and the display changed. New regions appeared on the map, regions beyond council space, unexplored and uncharted territories that the elder species had deemed too difficult or dangerous to colonize. "Phase 2 begins now," Una said. On her display, small blue dots began appearing in those distant regions, human ships moving into the unknown, not fleeing, not hiding, expanding. 3 months after the celebration, Trade Regent Lythis received the first disturbing report. A shipping route that humans had maintained for 70 years had failed. Not just slowed or disrupted, completely failed. Ships attempting to use it found themselves lost in navigational dead zones, unable to calculate safe jump coordinates. "How is this possible?" she demanded of her chief engineer. "The route has been stable for decades." "It was stable because the humans maintained it," the engineer explained nervously. They had placed relay beacons throughout this region, small devices that corrected for gravitational fluctuations and stellar drift. When they left, they took the beacons with them, so placed new beacons. "We're trying, Regent, but we can't replicate the human technology. Their beacons were far more sophisticated than ours. Without them, this route is unusable." Lythis swayed in her containment sphere with agitation. "One route. We can compensate, but it wasn't one route." Over the following weeks, 17 major shipping lanes began experiencing problems. Transit times doubled or tripled. Some routes became completely impassable. The galactic economy, which had run smoothly for centuries, started to falter. On Haven 7, the new occupants faced their own crisis. A consortium of 3 species had claimed the former human colony, eager to exploit its extensive mining operations and agricultural facilities. They arrived to find buildings intact and machinery present, but nothing worked. The power grid activated, but only at 30% capacity. The mining equipment turned on, but immediately shut down with error messages in languages the new occupants couldn't decipher. The agricultural processors seemed functional but produced nothing edible, as if calibrated for biology that didn't exist. Engineers from all 3 species spent weeks attempting repairs. They found that every system had been modified by human technicians in ways that weren't documented. The modifications were brilliant, more efficient than standard designs, but completely incomprehensible. It's like they rebuilt everything from scratch using principles we don't understand, one frustrated engineer reported. "The equipment looks normal, but it functions on theories we haven't discovered yet." The consortium finally hired non-council engineers, independents who sometimes traded with humans hoping for insight. These engineers examined the facilities and delivered bad news. The humans didn't sabotage anything. They just built things their way. "Your species see 3 spatial dimensions. Humans were apparently working with more. Your physics works with standard quantum mechanics. Human modifications suggest they've moved beyond that. You can't operate their equipment because you literally can't perceive all the variables involved." The consortium abandoned Haven 7 within 6 months. The colony that had housed 50,000 humans and promised vast profits now sat empty and useless, a monument to the gap between human engineering and council understanding. Similar stories emerged from other former human territories. Stations that looked functional but couldn't maintain life support. Facilities that worked perfectly until they didn't. failing in ways that defied troubleshooting, equipment that required neural interfaces nobody else possessed. It was as if the humans had salted the earth on their way out, not with poison, but with sophistication. The economic impact rippled outward. Trade regent Lythus watched helplessly as markets destabilized. Humans had been major trade partners for 70% of Council species. Their absence created holes that couldn't be quickly filled. Worse, the technologies they had licensed to other species stopped working. The patents they had shared required periodic authentication through human-controlled servers. Those servers were in Sol system, behind the impenetrable communications blackout. Thousands of factories across Council space found themselves with expensive equipment they could no longer operate. Medical facilities lost access to human-developed treatments. Agricultural worlds discovered their human-designed crop varieties wouldn't grow without regular genetic updates from Earth. In 6 months, the galactic economy contracted by 15%. Species that had celebrated humanity's departure now faced recession. 6 months after the withdrawal, Council Intelligence Chief Kreeth delivered a presentation that silenced the Council chamber. He showed data that nobody wanted to believe. "We have been monitoring human research projects for decades," Kreeth explained, his multiple eyes scanning the assembled delegates. "Standard procedure for potentially dangerous civilizations. We tracked 47 major human research initiatives." He displayed a holographic list, projects in physics, biology, engineering, computer science, and fields that didn't fit into any existing categories. When humanity withdrew, we assumed they abandoned these projects. However, analysis of data patterns suggests otherwise. Every project the Council was aware of has disappeared completely. Not abandoned, disappeared. As if the humans erased all traces of their work. "Perhaps they destroyed it," suggested one delegate. "Spite over their containment." "That's unlikely," Kreeth continued, "because our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual quantum signatures from the Sol system in the months leading up to their withdrawal. These signatures match what we'd expect from several of those research projects reaching completion." The implications settled over the chamber like a cold wind. "Are you suggesting," Vexthar said slowly, "that the humans completed advanced research projects and hid the results from us?" "I'm suggesting that humanity may have been operating on 2 levels of technology. One they showed us which followed Council regulations and guidelines, and one they kept hidden, which may have been far more advanced." Scientific Director at Head Sulvara, a crystalline being of considerable age and wisdom, rose from her seat. "I have reviewed historical data on human technological development. The progression is unusual. They appear to advance in sudden jumps rather than steady evolution. Each jump coincides with periods when they request privacy for internal review of research." "You think they were lying about their capabilities?" Lythus asked. "I think they were being cautious," Sulvara replied. "We told them their advancement made us nervous. So they showed us slower advancement while privately developing much faster. We saw what they wanted us to see," War Master Cormac stood. 3 months ago I ordered probes sent to the Sol system's edge. They were to observe but not approach. None returned. Destroyed? Someone asked. Vanished, Cormac corrected. No debris. No distress signals. They simply ceased to exist at a specific distance from the Sol system, as if space itself ends at that point. "That's impossible," Vexthar protested. "Many things humans do appear impossible by our standards," Cormac said grimly, "yet they do them anyway." The Council convened an emergency session to discuss what to do about the Sol system blackout. Speaker Vexthar insisted that humanity was simply hiding in shame. Others weren't so sure. A proposal emerged to send a diplomatic mission to Sol system, to re-establish contact and negotiate trade agreements. The economic damage of humanity's absence was becoming severe. "We need their technology," Lythus admitted reluctantly. "Our economy relied on it more than we realized. We need to open communications. And how do we contact a species that has made themselves unreachable?" Sulvara asked. Nobody had a good answer. Meanwhile, reports began filtering in from the frontier regions, the areas beyond Council space that no species had successfully colonized. Strange signals, unidentified ships, rumors of new settlements in regions that should be impossible to settle. A scout from the Tharan Collective, the young species who had always been friendly with humans, returned from a frontier expedition with an incredible story. she had encountered a human ship. The ship had been friendly, had offered assistance, had even helped repair her damaged vessel. But we're beyond Council space, the scout reported to her superiors. How could humans be out here? They're supposed to be confined to Sol system. Her recording showed a vessel unlike any human ship on record. Larger, sleeker, powered by systems that produced energy signatures Council science couldn't explain. The crew had been courteous but had refused to explain their presence in frontier space. Just passing through, they had told the scout. We're exploring new territories. Tell your people the humans wish them well. Then the ship had simply vanished. Not by jumping to faster-than-light travel, which leaves characteristic signatures, but by fading away as if stepping through a door that closed behind them. The Tharan brought this report to the Council. Vexthar dismissed it as either a hoax or misidentification, but Cormac believed it. He had his intelligence service investigate similar reports. Within weeks, they had compiled 24 sightings of human vessels in impossible locations. Ships that appeared where no ship should be able to travel. Settlements on worlds that Council surveys had declared uninhabitable. They're not in Sol system anymore, Cormac told the Council. Or rather, they are in Sol system, but they're also elsewhere. They found a way to be in multiple places simultaneously. Impossible, Vexthar insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal, the Council faced an uncomfortable truth. They had tried to contain a dangerous species. Instead, they had removed the one thing holding that species back, the obligation to play by the Council's rules. The Council chamber had been decorated for the occasion. Banners representing all 12 elder species hung from the high ceiling. Light displays created patterns of color that danced across the assembled delegates. A celebration unlike any in recent memory was underway. Speaker Vexthar stood at the central podium, his wings spread wide in triumph. Around him, representatives from hundreds of species gathered to witness what many were calling the Council's finest moment. They had contained a potentially dangerous upstart species without firing a single shot, without losing a single life, without creating a martyr. Today marks a new chapter in galactic order, Vexthar announced, his voice carrying across the vast space. The human question has been resolved peacefully. They have accepted their place. They have returned to their home system. The natural hierarchy has been restored. Applause erupted from the assembled crowd. Some species clapped. Others made sounds of approval according to their biology. The celebration had been building for days, as one by one the human colonies reported empty and abandoned. Trade Regent Lythis addressed the assembly next, her containment sphere floating up beside the podium. The economic disruption caused by human expansion has ended. Markets are already stabilizing. The resources they consumed will be redistributed more efficiently. Their colonies will be resettled by species who understand patience and proper development. More applause. Delegates were already signing agreements to claim former human territories. The mining colony on Haven 7 would go to a consortium of 3 species. The trade stations would be divided among the merchant guilds. The agricultural worlds would be parceled out to civilizations that needed food production. Only War Master Cormac seemed subdued. He stood at his seat watching the celebration but not participating. His second-in-command leaned close and whispered, "You do not celebrate, War Master?" "I celebrate nothing until I understand what truly happened," Cormac replied quietly. "The humans left too easily. Too completely. Something is wrong. They had no choice. We gave them an ultimatum they could not refuse. Perhaps." Cormac's claws tapped against his armrest. "Or perhaps we gave them exactly what they wanted." His second-in-command looked confused but said nothing more. Around them, the celebration continued. On day 30, the moment arrived for humanity's official response. The Council had demanded an acknowledgement, a formal acceptance of the terms. Ambassador Taemin had promised to deliver it. The chamber fell silent as the quantum transmission activated. A holographic projection materialized in the center of the room, showing Taemin standing in what appeared to be an office. Through the window behind him, Earth could be seen, blue and beautiful and seemingly vulnerable. Taemin looked older than when he had left the Council chambers a month ago. His face was thinner, his eyes more serious, but his voice remained calm and measured. Council Speaker Vexthar honored representatives. I speak for humanity in this final communication. Final communication. Several council members noticed the phrasing but dismissed it. The human species has complied fully with the Council's demands. We have withdrawn from all territories beyond the Sol system. Every colony has been evacuated. Every station has been abandoned. Every military vessel has returned home. We have ceased all interaction with Council species and their associated civilizations. Vexthar ruffled his feathers with satisfaction. And do you accept the wisdom of the Council's decision? Taemin's expression didn't change. We have learned much from the Council. For that education, we are grateful. You understand that humanity will remain confined to your home system indefinitely, that any attempt to re-establish presence in Council space will be met with forcible containment? We understand the Council's position completely, Taemin replied. Humanity will honor this arrangement. We will not return to Council space. Lythus's voice bubbled through her sphere's translator. Perhaps this experience has taught your species the value of humility? Of knowing one's place among the stars? For the first time, something flickered across Taemin's face. It might have been amusement, though it vanished too quickly to be certain. The Council has taught humanity many valuable lessons. We will apply them thoroughly. Vexthar spread his wings wider. Then we are satisfied. Humanity has learned wisdom. Perhaps in a few centuries, when you have matured properly, the Council will consider allowing limited expansion under our guidance. That will not be necessary, Taemin said, but we appreciate the offer. You refuse the possibility of future membership? Vexthar's head tilted in surprise. We decline the invitation to wait centuries for permission we no longer need. Taemin's voice remained perfectly polite, but his words carried an edge that made several Council members shift uncomfortably. Humanity wishes the Council peace and prosperity. We hold no ill will. We harbor no desire for revenge. We simply choose a different path. There is no other path, Vexthar said sharply. The galaxy is divided between Council space and the territories of civilizations under our protection. Where else would you go? That is humanity's concern, not yours. Taemin looked directly at the Council speaker. You demanded we leave your space. We have left. You demanded we cease interaction with your members. We have ceased. You have what you wanted, Speaker Vexthar. Be content with your victory. The word victory carried a strange inflection, as if Taemin found some private humor in it. This will be our final transmission, Taemin continued. Humanity thanks the Council for clarifying our relationship. Farewell. Wait, Vexthar began, but the transmission cut off. The holographic projection vanished, and then something unprecedented happened. Every human relay station in Council space, every quantum communication node, every satellite network that humanity had established over 2 centuries of integration, all of it went offline simultaneously. The Sol system's transponders stopped broadcasting. Its communication channels went dark. It was as if someone had drawn a curtain around the entire star system. No signals could get in. No signals could get out. The Sol system became a black hole in the galaxy's information network. Technicians rushed to re-establish contact. They found nothing. The human systems weren't damaged or destroyed. They had simply been shut down from the inside, encrypted with codes that would take years to break. If they could be broken at all, the Sol system had gone silent. For a moment, uncertainty rippled through the celebrating crowd. Then Vexthar laughed, a sharp chirping sound. Let them sulk in isolation. They have cut themselves off from galactic civilization. They will stagnate while we continue to advance. It is their loss, not ours. The crowd's mood recovered. Yes, that made sense. The humans were bitter about their defeat. Let them hide in their single system. Let them nurse their wounded pride. Meanwhile, the rest of the galaxy would move forward without them. The celebration resumed with renewed energy. By evening, most delegates were engaged in elaborate discussions about the division of human assets. The legal frameworks were complex, but everyone was eager to claim their share of what humanity had left behind. Trade Regent Lyths hosted a dinner for the merchant guilds, where she outlined the economic opportunities presented by humanity's withdrawal. Their absence creates vacuums in 17 major markets. Those who act quickly will profit enormously. Only Cormac remained troubled. He left the celebration early and returned to his flagship. There he reviewed surveillance data from the Sol system's edge. Council probes had been monitoring human space continuously, even during the celebration. Show me the last readings before the blackout, he ordered. His analyst displayed the data. For just a moment before the communication systems went dark, the probes had detected something unusual. Energy readings that spiked far beyond normal levels, gravitational fluctuations that shouldn't have been possible, and what might have been thousands of ships moving inside the Sol system, far more than humanity should have possessed. But then everything went dark, and the readings stopped. What was happening in there? Cormac muttered. His second-in-command ventured. Perhaps they were destroying their own infrastructure? A final gesture of defiance? Cormac's tail swished back and forth. Or they were building something they didn't want us to see. What could they build in 30 days? That is what worries me. Cormac stared at the dark spot on his display where the Sol system should have been broadcasting. We assumed they would take years to recover from the setback. But what if they weren't set back at all? What if we just gave them exactly what they needed? Needed for what? Cormac had no answer. He could only watch the darkness where humanity had disappeared and wonder what was happening in that silence. 18 months after humanity's withdrawal, Captain Yunseo made first contact with the Kaleth species on a world the Council had never bothered to investigate. The Kaleth were a peaceful species, barely entering their industrial age, struggling to survive on a planet with harsh atmospheric conditions. Yunseo's ship descended from the sky not as a conqueror but as a friend. She and her crew offered technology to help the Kaleth breathe easier in their own air. They shared agricultural techniques that could triple food production. They asked for nothing in return except friendship. The Kaleth elders were suspicious at first. We have heard of the great powers of the galaxy. They care nothing for small species like us. We're not them, Yunseo replied simply. We're humans, and we remember what it's like to be small. Within months, the Kaleth signed a mutual cooperation agreement with humanity. They were the first, but they would not be the last. Chief Ambassador Hyunwoo led the diplomatic corps that made contact with 43 species across frontier space over the next year. Some were pre-industrial, like the Kaleth. Others were moderately advanced but had been ignored or rejected by the Council for various reasons. Too aggressive, too unpredictable, too different. Humanity welcomed them all. Not as subjects or inferiors, but as equals. The only requirement for joining, what humans called the independent territories, was a commitment to peaceful cooperation and mutual respect. The Council first learned about the independent territories when a trade delegation arrived, unannounced at a Council border station. The delegation consisted of species the Council had never seen before, traveling on human-designed ships, bearing goods from regions that shouldn't be colonizable. We represent the independent territories, their spokesperson announced. We seek trade agreements with Council species on fair terms. The station commander immediately contacted his superiors. Within hours, the report reached the Council chambers. Within days, scouts were dispatched to investigate. What they found shocked them. Beyond Council space, humanity had established something unprecedented. Not an empire built on conquest, but a federation built on cooperation. 43 member species, each maintaining their sovereignty, each contributing according to their abilities. And the technology. The scouts couldn't believe what they were seeing. Stations orbiting stars that would kill any Council species. Habitats and environments that shouldn't support life. Ships that moved through space using principles that defied known physics. Lead scientist In Young gave a presentation at the first Independent Territories Trade Summit that was attended by Council observers. She explained what humanity had accomplished. For 2 centuries we followed Council regulations, In Young said. We used approved technologies. We stayed within established parameters. We did this because we wanted to be good neighbors. But the Council taught us that being a good neighbor wasn't enough. So we stopped trying to fit into your systems and built our own. She displayed holographic schematics that made the Council observers' heads hurt. Literally. The mathematics involved dimensions that most Council species couldn't perceive. We cracked the dimensional barriers, In Young continued. We developed faster-than-light communication that doesn't require relay stations. We created propulsion systems that manipulate space-time directly. We learned to build habitats that modify local physics to support life in any environment. One observer managed to ask, "How? This should take millions of years of research." In Young smiled. "It took us 3 years of focused work. When you removed all distractions, when you gave us a common purpose, when you united every human behind a single goal, we achieved what you thought impossible. You gave us the gift of necessity. The council convened emergency sessions to discuss the independent territories. The younger species trade delegation had proven the reports were real. Humanity had somehow leapfrogged past council technology by centuries in less than 2 years. Speaker Vexthar, looking older and less confident than before, addressed the chamber. We must determine humanity's intentions. Are they building an empire to challenge us? War Master Cormac, who had been monitoring independent territories' activity, provided his assessment. They show no aggressive intent. They've made contact with species in frontier regions offering technology and friendship. They've established trade routes that avoid council space entirely. They're not preparing for war. They're simply ignoring us. Ignoring us? Vexthar's feathers ruffled with indignation. We are the Galactic Council. And they don't care, Cormac replied bluntly. We told them to leave, they left. We told them not to come back. They're not coming back. They've moved on. Trade Regent Lethas presented economic data that made the situation clear. The independent territories control resources exceeding our own holdings. Their trade networks are growing faster than ours. Species we've ignored or rejected are joining them eagerly. In 5 years, they will surpass us economically. In 10 years, we will be irrelevant. The chamber fell silent. The unthinkable had happened. The species they had tried to contain had broken free and grown beyond their reach. We must negotiate, Lethas continued. We need their technology. We need access to their trade networks. Our economy cannot survive without it. But how could they negotiate when humanity wouldn't communicate? The answer came from an unexpected source. The Tharan Collective, the young species who had always maintained friendly relations with humans, offered to act as intermediaries. They could contact the independent territories and request a meeting. 3 months later, Ambassador Taemin returned to the council chambers. He was older now, his hair showing gray at the temples, but he carried himself differently than before. Not with the careful dignity of someone asking for permission, but with the quiet confidence of someone who didn't need it. The chamber was packed. Every council species had sent representatives. Everyone wanted to see what humanity had become. Taemin stood in the center of the chamber, in the same spot where he had received the council's ultimatum 2.5 years ago. But this time he was not alone. Behind him stood representatives from the independent territories, species the council had never seen, beings from worlds the council had never explored. Speaker Vexthar opened the session, his voice lacking its former authority. Ambassador Taemin, the council welcomes your return. We hope to re-establish diplomatic and economic relations with humanity. I'm not here as a representative of humanity alone, Taemin replied. I represent the independent territories, 43 sovereign species who have chosen cooperation over competition. We understand, Vexthar said carefully, and we are interested in dialogue with your alliance. It's not an alliance. It's a federation. And I'm curious, Speaker, about what the council wants to discuss. Trade Regent Lethas spoke up. The council recognizes that mistakes were made in our previous negotiations. We were too hasty, too harsh. We would like to revise our earlier position and welcome humanity back into council space. Taemin's expression didn't change. That won't be necessary. We have no interest in returning to council space. But surely, Vexthar interjected, humanity wants to be part of the greater galactic community? We are part of a galactic community, Taemin said. Just not yours. The words hung in the air like a knife. Not said with anger or spite, just simple fact. War Master Cormac, who had always been the most perceptive of the council members, asked the question everyone else was afraid to voice. What do you want from us, Ambassador? Taemin turned to face the War Master directly. Nothing. We wanted trade partners, you gave us demands. We wanted cooperation, you gave us ultimatums. We wanted to be part of your council. You wanted us beneath it. So we built our own path. He gestured to the representatives behind him. These species would have joined your council if you'd invited them. But you didn't. You deemed them too primitive, too different, too troublesome. We saw potential where you saw problems. And what is your purpose here today? Cormac pressed. Information. The independent territories believe in open communication. We're informing you of our existence and our intentions. We seek peaceful coexistence. We have no territorial claims on council space. We have no aggressive intentions toward council species. We simply want to be left alone to grow in our own direction. And if the council objects? Vexthar asked. attempting to reclaim some authority. For the first time, Taemin's expression hardened. Then the council would be making a mistake. We didn't leave because we were weak. We left because fighting you would have been a waste of resources better spent elsewhere. But if you force a conflict, we will defend ourselves. And I promise you, Speaker Vexthar, you won't like what we've become in our isolation. The chamber fell silent. It wasn't a threat exactly. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the calm certainty of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of. Admiral Hana's fleet arrived in council space a week later, and any thoughts of forcing the issue died instantly. The fleet consisted of 200 vessels, each one larger and more advanced than anything the council had ever built. They didn't enter council territory, but they positioned themselves at the border, clearly visible to every long-range scanner. The fleet's purpose wasn't aggression. It was simply presence,